Hello, everybody, and welcome to Odds and Ends for Monday, December the 13th, here on bet.nola.com. We're brought to you by the Caesars Sportsbook. Devin Jackson and Jim Derry alongside myself, Zach Ewing, and we're here to talk about the weekend that was in sports, especially this weekend. That means the NFL and almost exclusively the NFL, a few other things going on. But we do want to remind you before we get started that you can sign up for the Caesars Sportsbook app right now. Mobile betting not live yet, but you can get that mobile app downloaded. You can look at the lines. You can check out how it works. You can deposit money. You can even get a bonus, $100 free bet if you use our promo code. You can either go to nola.com/Caesars. It will put it in automatically. Or if you just go to the App Store or whatever, the promo code is NOLA1, NOLA1. So we encourage you to do that whenever you get a chance, and you'll be ready to go when mobile betting goes live here in the next month or so, hopefully even before that. So in the meantime, let's talk some NFL. Let's talk some Monday Night Football since it is Monday night. And tonight's game is a good one out in the NFC West. The Rams in Arizona to face the Cardinals. This was the line from this morning. Cardinals were -2.5. It's actually ticked up to 3 with the news that both Jalen Ramsey, the Rams star cornerback, and their tight end Tyler Higbee, both on the COVID-19 list and will not play tonight. And so that's, I assume that's what's caused the line to tick up to 3, but you never know. It could have moved on its own anyway. It was 3 earlier in the week, went down to 2.5, and is now back to Cardinals by 3. So I know, Jim, when we talk about this game, the Sharps have been on the Rams most of the week. I don't know if today's news changes that for anybody, but that's where the money has been.
Doesn't change it for me. I still am on the Rams. I said beginning of the season, I'm not ready to jump ship yet. Maybe one more bad performance, and I might be, but I still think the Rams are going to end up being the best team in the NFC. They aren't right now, but I think they will end up being the best team in the NFC. And they have to win this game tonight to stay on that track, because I think, unlike some past years, I think it's going to be really tough for teams that don't win their division to make it all the way through. I think the road through Tampa Bay and Green Bay and potentially either Arizona or even the Rams is going to be a lot tougher than it has been in the past. So I think that if the Rams want to win the division, tonight they prove that they are the best team. I still think they are, and losing Jalen Ramsey hurts, but I'm still not sure Kyler Murray is at full strength, or DeAndre Hopkins for that matter. So we'll see where that goes. I do like a lower scoring game, and I think that the Rams are going to play pretty good defense tonight. That's what I would expect.
We've got you saw Dave DiBenedetto, who dat from Jersey, signing on, and we will talk plenty of Saints. That's quite a nice Jersey name there, DiBenedetto, that you've got, Dave. So we will talk some Saints. They got a win yesterday. That's right. Didn't say it right. The Saints do get a win up in Jersey, 30-9 over the Jets. Dave, you weren't the guy who ran on the field, were you? I mean, they said that was a Saints fan from New Jersey. If it is, we're gonna have to get you on for an interview real quick. You gotta leave Demario Davis alone, man. But anyway, the Saints did get a win. Let's key into some of the other NFL action. We'll circle back to Monday Night Football before we exit here and talk about that one, because it is a key game in the NFC playoff race. But the Saints get that win over the Jets. They cover as favorites. They break the 5-game losing streak. They do it in style. Just the afternoon window was insane. Devin, the 49ers and Bucks both blowing big leads, then surviving in overtime. And then we had, the Cowboys, some great gambling games. The Cowboys, the line moved up to 6.5, and they had a big lead, barely hang on to cover. The Ravens somehow cover, even though they were down 24-3 at halftime. Last night, the Bears were 12.5-point dogs. They had a 10-point lead late in the first half and didn't cover. And then, there's just some weird call, like the muffed punt. They got a kind of a cheap penalty on. I'm still sore about that game because I was one of the only ones I know on the Bears. And in our Carville contest, they had the onside kick that they returned, but there's some archaic rule that you can't return an onside kick.
Same as a muff punt.
Yeah, well, no, a muff punt's different because there's nobody behind you. A muff punt's always going to be a touchdown. I don't know.
Nobody behind you on a kick either.
They're archaic rules. I don't like them. I especially didn't like them last night. But anyway, it was a good. Honestly, I think it was a bad day for the books yesterday. I think the bettors had a good day.
Yeah, it was a lot of backdoor covers, and for a second there, and we were talking about it last night. We thought the Bills were going to cover, and pretty much what could not happen happened on both sides of the coin. The Bucks blowing a lead late in the fourth quarter, and then the Bills had a chance to possibly win the game. They go for the field goal instead of going for the win, and then in overtime the Bills get the ball first, so you think, okay, the Bills might actually not only cover but win outright. They go 3-and-out and then just give up a touchdown. So you felt all the range of emotions because I was on the Bills at 3.5, and it was perfect. It was going to set up perfect. The Bucks are going to go down, kick a field goal, win the game. That didn't happen. They won on a walk-off touchdown. Then the Ravens game, kind of same scenario where the Ravens, I think they went for 2 on one of the touchdowns they scored, and I think they got it. And then, they made it 24-22. So it was a lot of crazy football going on.
Yeah, what they did was they scored to make it 24-15 and then went for 2 then, which is the right move because then whether whether you only need 1 more score or whether you're going to need 2 more scores and you got to hurry up. And they didn't get it. So it's 24-15. They need 2 more scores. They did get another touchdown, but then obviously needed another possession there at the end. But they did get the backdoor cover in there. Jim Derry, I think, is 7-0 in the Carville picks. A couple of them kind of went your way there, but at the end, but you got to have a little luck to go 7-0.
Yeah, someone's 7-0. I'm not sure, but to go back to your point real quick about the books, I think the books actually made some money yesterday. If you look at we get the newsletter of the odds and trends each week, and if you look at the percentage of dollars wagered, I'm looking at it right now. Raiders 65%, they got crushed. Jets 59%. Obviously, we know what happened there. The Titans did cover, but they only got 55%. 80% of the money was on the Browns yesterday. They took a bath on that one. The bettors took a bath. I mean, there were a ton of people on the Browns yesterday. 87% were on the Panthers yesterday. So you go through this list, and there were some big winners. The Broncos were 89%, so they lost money on that one. The Giants, though, were getting 86% of the money. So I think the books actually had a pretty good day. You would think that just because I went 7-0 doesn't mean the books had a bad day. I mean, I'm not Joe Square or anything, but I went into this week and I felt probably as good about this week as almost any other. I thought there were a lot of values. I liked a lot of favorites this week, which doesn't usually happen. I usually like mostly dogs, and it was a good week for favorites for the most part. And you're right, we did need a little bit of luck to get some of these wins for sure. The 49ers game, I mean, that was one of the lucky ones, and then really the biggest luck of the day, and Devin touched on it. If you had the Bucks -3, you're just hoping for a push at the end, the way that it ended. And you get Rashad Perriman streaking down the right sideline, and you're like, okay, well, it's going to be a little bit better than a push. So it was a weird weekend of betting overall, but I just thought it was one of those easy ones to handicap. And I don't know if I spent more time with it or went more deep in numbers because I had a bad couple of weeks, but I really did go into the numbers, defense versus offense. I went through who I thought was due for a letdown. I went through who just kind of didn't pass the eye test, like the football team. And again, you could call that luck if you want to hold on and win there. But it just was one of those easier weeks. And to me, as you get closer to the playoffs and teams that have to win are playing teams that, whatever, it gets a little bit easier to pick them, I think.
I mean, and listen, by no means am I calling Jim Derry square, because I don't think you are. But hindsight's 20/20. I mean, you've said several times this year, hey, I feel real good about these picks, and then they've gone haywire on you. So it's real easy to go back and say after you have a good week, oh yeah, I was on this week. But having said that, I mean, that doesn't mean, look, your record is what your record is over the full season, and so if it's over 500 for the full season, well, then
way over.
Yeah, you did a good job. So that's really what it comes down to. I will say in our Carville game, which you can see everybody's picks in the Friday edition of the Advocate and Times Picayune, I think I have to go back and look. I think all 9 of us who are in that game are over 500 at this point. There's a couple who are, depending on tonight's game, could drop to 4-4. but that's as worse as anybody is in the 8 games we picked, which was Army Navy plus 7 NFL games. So, like from that perspective, it just seemed like there weren't a lot of games. There weren't a lot of games where it was like, how the heck did that happen? I mean, there weren't a ton of those. And I said on Thursday's show, like I thought the Bears would play well and maybe not win outright, but have a chance. And I was the only one on that. And they did play well, and they did have a chance. Now they made some.
Their defense didn't play well.
Their defense didn't play well, and they made some dubious coaching decisions in that set. Like the punt that was muffed by the Packers, which it was all over Twitter afterward. There was a punt earlier in the game where the Packers gunner goes all the way out of bounds behind everybody on the sideline, clearly doesn't make any effort to get back in, and then comes back in and helps in on the tackle. They didn't call that. But when the Bears player gets kind of pushed out of bounds for 2 steps and comes right back in, oh, that's a flag. But the point is, they shouldn't have even been punting in that situation. They're down by 15 points with 11 minutes left or whatever it is, and they've got a 4th and 2. I mean, you got to go for it. But anyway, it was a crazy week of gambling, and hopefully that will continue tonight because it's just more fun when it's like that.
Go Rams! I want to go 8-0.
Yeah, we will see what happens tonight with the Rams and Cardinals. Let's switch gears just for a minute. College basketball season getting into it now, and I do want to talk about that just for a few minutes. No college football of note other than Army Navy, and then the FCS quarterfinals were this weekend. But college basketball, hot and heavy, of course. LSU rolling, they're 9-0. They covered easily at Georgia Tech. The rest of the SEC, not so great. Arkansas and Kentucky lose blowout. Well, Arkansas loses a blowout. Kentucky lost to Notre Dame as a favorite. I don't know if anybody had time Saturday to watch that Alabama-Houston game. Might have been the game of the weekend in any sport. And I include those afternoon NFL games because this one was wild. There were like 19 lead changes in the second half. Neither team led by more than 4 points. Houston has a chance to win at the end. Possible goaltend. They didn't call it. The Houston coaching staff is just ticked off to the gills. One of their players started going after the ref. Kelvin Sampson's son kicked over a chair and broke it and then kicked over a trash can. I mean, it was just like the wildest thing you've ever seen. But Alabama hangs on to win. Purdue almost lost as a 14.5-point favorite. Baylor crushes Villanova. I don't know how much attention you guys are paying to college basketball yet. It's been a pretty fun season so far.
Yeah, I have not paid a huge amount of attention, but I did see a little bit of the Notre Dame Kentucky game. That was a pretty good one. It came right down to the wire. But some of those other games, I think Purdue lost earlier in the week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they lost to Rutgers on a buzzer beater.
Yeah, I saw that highlight as well. So I'm catching like glimpses here and there of some of these games. Obviously following LSU as the local team and see what they're doing. But it's definitely from the looks of it, looks like it's going to be another wild season of college basketball and a lot of upsets this upcoming year.
Yeah, and I do want to mention. Go ahead.
I'm just very happy with my early 13-1 Duke pick. I'm just saying.
13 to win the national title.
The first bet I ever made at Harrah's was betting on Duke to win the national championship. So
all right, a little Coach K storybook ending.
Yeah, the Hollywood ending. Going out in style. I think it's that was the only reason why I really took it because you could just see as it goes towards the end. I mean, if they're when they're in the tournament, if they're the top seed, they're not just going to get love from the fans. They're going to get love from the refs.
I do want to mention what Nick mentioned here. One of the Houston players, Houston was doing all this stuff. One of their players stopped and picked up all the trash that his coach spilled when he kicked the trash can over. I mean, it's like it was like a judge of humanity, right? Like you see one guy throwing a tantrum, another guy going after the ref. The Alabama coach, Nate Oates, is sitting there with his hand extended, waiting for Kelvin Sampson to come shake it. And he's just standing there posed with his hand out, like, hey, come shake my hand. And, clearly making a show of it. And then you have this Houston player who's they're picking up trash. Hey, my coach spilled this trash. I got to pick it up. It was great, man. College, there's almost nothing like college basketball. It's just the level of insanity we get into.
Different. It's Phi Slamma Jamma Part 2. They just slamming it into the trash can.
That's right. That's right. So as the LSU grad on set, Jim, I have to say, is LSU like a men's basketball school now? What's going on? They're rolling, man.
Well, Wade knows how to play the game, my friend. He's learned. Well, he's got to do what he's got to do.
Sorry, my thumb itched. I don't.
You want to be with the rest of them. You want to play with the rest of the big boys. You got to do what the rest of the big boys do. It's kind of like high school football.
No, and in all seriousness, look, did he pay players? Did he not pay players? There's obviously some evidence. If there was overwhelming evidence, the NCAA would have done something by now, right? I mean, it's been 3 years since we've heard this. So if they haven't done anything, at some point you have to assume they don't have anything on it. Like,
I don't care if he did or didn't, to be honest. I mean, as long as they win, I really don't care how they win.
And they are winning. They're 9-0. They've got several Power 5 wins. They have
Look,
a win over
what I don't like,
one
Zach,
of the better small schools.
In all seriousness, when you look at LSU, though, their early SEC schedule is brutal. So you're gonna all the cupcakes are in the back half of the schedule. So if they could easily jump out to a rough start in SEC play. If they jump out to like a 5-2 start in the SEC, I mean, they're going to end up being a 3 or 4 seed. I mean, that's because they'll end up winning 23, 24 games, and they could be a legit power. I don't want to say power. That's a little strong, but they could be up there with some of the big boys. So we're going to find out early. I know they got Kentucky early. They have, I think, Texas A&M's early. Arkansas and Alabama, I think, are both early. So I think by the middle to end of January, we're going to know how good LSU really is in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I actually got them a couple of weeks ago at 10-1 to win the SEC. They're now 9-1, which still strikes me as a pretty good price.
I agree.
I don't know that they'll win it. I mean, I think Alabama's probably your favorite. You know, Kentucky's going to be there, but I don't understand that line. I don't understand. They're like
people don't like
7th best odds.
People don't like people think of LSU the same way they think in football of Mississippi State or Ole Miss. I mean, you're always going to get better odds on a team. I mean, think about it. If you're not from around here and you don't think about it, I mean, when you think SC basketball, you think of Kentucky. You automatically think of Tennessee to some extent. You think of Alabama just because they're Alabama. You think they're good in everything these days. And they kind of are. Florida. Yeah, Florida's been in the Final Four several times in the past few years and won the championship how long ago? Not long ago.
They won 2 titles in a row, but you're talking back in like 06, 07.
No, it wasn't that long ago, was it? Anyway,
since then.
But I'm just talking about who teams you think of. You don't think of an LSU. I mean, they're just not up there. So I think that's where those odds stand. If they go through that stretch like we talked about, I think that is a great bet, Zach. Maybe I'll go pounce on that. But I agree. I think if you want to take them at 9-1, I think that's at least if they play it out 9 times, I think they'd win it at least once. So there you go. I think good odds there.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say this, just looking at their schedule, you're right. It is somewhat front-loaded. Their last 2 games, however, March 2nd at Arkansas and then March 5th at home against Alabama. If there's a title race going on.
Not too long towards the end, they play Kentucky as well.
Yeah, 3 of their last 4, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama. So I think it kind of gets easy in the middle there and then difficult again at the end. By the way, the last SEC team to win a national championship was Kentucky in 2012. And before that, you do have to go back to those 06, 07 Florida teams. So it has been a while since an SEC team won a national title in basketball.
Their schedule's kind of like me, hard around the edges and soft in the middle.
You said it, not me, man.
Okay, well.
You said it. All right.
Yeah.
That's enough college basketball for now. We're still in college football season, and it is bowl time. But first, we'll go over quickly the game of the day. Saturday, that was Army-Navy. And Navy has a 7-point dog. And I told you guys on Thursday I didn't like my picks very much. But I'd already locked them in, so I went with them. I had Army. By the time the game kicked off, I was pretty sure it was a loser. Now, they did have a 13-7 lead at halftime. So, okay, well, maybe I'll get away with it here. But Navy dominates the second half, shuts them out. And, by the way, 16th consecutive Army-Navy game that goes under the total. We talked about this. Was the total too low? It was 34.5. It actually went up to 35.5 by kickoff. Still not high enough. 30 or still not low enough, 30 points. And so they go under for the 41st time in the last 51 games and for the 16th straight time, guys.
Yeah, it was a struggle. I thought the 13-7 first half, I'm like, okay, surely it will get over 35 points. He'll put up some points. Nope. Went exactly like every other game that they played in the last 40 or so years. But I did say that Navy had a chance to cover. I just had a feeling that even though they have pretty much opposite ways of how their season was going, Navy was playing better down the stretch. And this rivalry game doesn't matter who is what record. It kind of goes out the window. Navy had that fake punt, I think, in the third quarter or early in the fourth, and Army could never really get going that second half.
Hey, Jim, I know you were busy with prep football games on Saturday, but did you catch any Army Navy?
I didn't. I caught the highlights, but I will say this: if he's still watching, because I know he was watching earlier, I asked Uncle Big Nick what he thought, and he liked Army, so I took Navy.
Why didn't you tell me?
I should have. I wanted to keep it a secret. I didn't want everybody to pounce on it. In all seriousness, I did go back and look at the recent history, and they've had a lot of really close games. No matter, there were times when Navy was kind of in the same boat as Army is now, and you just got to think. I mean, these games are rarely blowouts, and to give 7.5 in a game like this, especially with the under that low, and we kind of talked about that too, with the under that low, with not a lot of points being scored, to give up 7.5, if it hangs around the total, it's tough to do. You're thinking it's got to be 20-10 or something like that, and I just didn't see that in a game like that. So I didn't really think Navy would pull it off, but you know.
I understand that train of thought, and we did talk about it last week. The past 3 games were all 7 point. In fact, last year was 15-0. Year before was 31-7. Year before that was 17-10 with the favorites covering all 3. So I get the train of thought. Oh, you got to throw the records out the window. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, and clearly it worked out this year. But I don't know that holds true every time.
Well, Navy had played a lot better, and Devin had talked about this as well. Navy had been playing a lot better the last half of the season. They played East Carolina really tight. They played Cincinnati really tight. So, I mean, those 2 games alone told me that they would play a decent game in this one. And that's kind of really why I jumped on Navy, and I just thought it was a good pick. Like I was at the Dome, so I don't like to bet games that I can't watch. There's Uncle Big Nick right there. He said I ended up betting Navy at kickoff, try to make me lose.
Well, instead you both won. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, well, I didn't bet it, so really only he won. But it did help me get to 7-0 with a chance to go 8-0 tonight. And let me just tell you, Jeff Duncan, who always talks smack prematurely, like I've known him for 20 years, and he's done it for 20 years. He likes to talk about a fantasy baseball team in May. And so if I take the lead on him, I'm just letting you know everybody's going to hear it.
I think you have. Well, going into tonight, you have the lead on him, I believe. If the Cardinals cover,
we're tied.
Yeah.
Yep. So if the Rams win, just be prepared for a text blow up there.
Okay. All right. I'll look forward to that. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter. No, that's a lot of fun, and we're coming down to the end of Cashing In with Carville. We're going to get to some of those games. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the early bowl games. The bowl games start on Friday. There's actually 2 of them. I only put 1 on here, but Coastal Carolina against Northern Illinois. That's a 10.5-point spread. Coastal, of course, had a great season last year. Not quite as good this year, and they end up in the very first. Actually, it's the second bowl game. This is the Cure Bowl, and then the first one is actually Friday at 11 a.m. That's the Bahamas Bowl. So if you want to skip work on Friday and be a true degenerate, which I don't disapprove of, 11 a.m. on Friday, Middle Tennessee State and Toledo. Toledo is laying 10. So if you want to get bowl season started right, man, and we're going to play a bowl pick'em, which we'll talk about on Thursday. And then on Saturday, there are some good games on Saturday. Western Kentucky and App State. These were the runners-up in Conference USA and the Sun Belt, respectively. That is the Boca Raton Bowl. So that's a good one on Saturday. We have UTEP and Fresno State in the New Mexico Bowl. Shout out to Albuquerque. And then the Independence Bowl, BYU and UAB. BYU, great season to get left in Shreveport for the season, but a bowl victory is a bowl victory. And I've been to the Independence Bowl. I had a good time, so I'm not gonna.
It's formerly known as the Poulan Weed Eaters Independence Bowl, isn't it?
No, it is now the Radiance Technologies Independence.
No, I'm saying formerly. That was my favorite.
Formerly. Oh yeah, I thought you said formerly.
Yeah. The Poulan Weed Eaters Bowl.
That was pretty great. Yeah.
And then the Bad Boys Mowers Bowl or something like that.
Speaking of, I also, one game I couldn't fit on here on Saturday, Eastern Michigan plays Liberty in the Lending Tree Bowl, which is in Mobile. And then speaking of sponsors, Oregon State, Utah State in the LA Bowl. You guys know what the sponsor of this one is, right?
Jimmy Kimmel.
It is the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
You're kidding.
No.
There's a Barstool Arizona Bowl,
thing,
too.
Man. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not broadcasting that game. I'd have a lot of trouble. I mean, look, it took you a month to get me to say UL. Okay, I would not be able to say the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
You could probably just call it the LA Bowl
50
most times.
They'd have to pay me a lot of money.
That one is Oregon State's the first Power 5 team to get to go bowling. Oregon State a touchdown favorite against Utah State. And then finally, Saturday night, the nightcap is the New Orleans Bowl, and that's the Ragin' Cajuns. They are 5-point favorites against the Marshall Thundering Herd, so that ought to be a pretty good one. Devin, I'm turning the floor over to you, man, because you do film study on these teams. What sticks out to you here?
Film study.
He does.
Well, first one that I think people are going to miss over is the Fresno State UTEP game. Fresno State is going to be without their head coach, without their quarterback, and I think without their top receiver. So I would probably take UTEP in that one just to cover, because I just don't think Fresno State's offense is going to produce much, because they have not played with their backup quarterback much this season, and he's going to be in the game. And when he wasn't, he didn't look good. So
I'm just going to interject real quick, Devin. And that game too, we always talk about bowl games. You got to judge motivation, right? UTEP was supposed to be trash. I mean, their win total this year was like 1.5 or 2. They went 7-5. They're playing that game in Albuquerque, which is just 3 hours up the freeway from El Paso. Like, it just feels like a game where UTEP's going to be the more motivated team there. So I like that pick a lot. But keep going with your other ones.
Yeah, that was the first one that stood out to me. Another one is Oregon State, Utah State. Utah State has been a surprise this season. First year under Blake Anderson, and they won the Mountain West Championship. San Diego State was the favorite in that one. Utah State not only covered, but won straight out. I think Utah State has a good chance to win this game straight up. I think they're going to be juiced up to play this game. They had a bad season last year, and they're coming off a big-time win in the Mountain West Championship. So that'd be another one to watch. And then App State, Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky, another team that, kind of disappointed in the Conference USA Championship game, but I think they're going to come ready to play in that one as well. App State, they've been here, done that. I don't think they're going to be super juiced up about it. Probably disappointed by losing the Sun Belt Championship as well. The Western Kentucky quarterback is playing in his final game. So I expect a lot of points. I would probably take the over in that game. I don't know if I will bet Western Kentucky to cover, but I would definitely take the over in that one.
Jim, the Ragin' Cajuns, I believe you guys were both on them in the Sun Belt title game, and they beat App State last game under Billy Napier. Now the dynamic changes. It's an interim coach. They're in the New Orleans Bowl, which is, I think, where they want to be, but it's also something that program's won several times. So what do you make of the spot that they're in here, just from a motivation point of view?
Not a good one. I'll have to go through. I have not gone through everything yet, so I'm going to have to look at it a little bit more. But I don't like UL here. I just don't. Oh, good Lord. I just don't think that they're going to be super motivated. They've done what they wanted to do. They wanted to win the Sun Belt. Get that off the screen, Devin.
What is in the Jim Derry Bowl, by the way? We got some nice punch in there, or we got something?
No, the bet.nola.com Jim Derry Bowl is actually an NFL game, and you take the two worst teams in the NFL, you let them play each other, and the winner gets the first pick in the draft. So that's what that is.
So it's like the toilet bowl.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's perfect for that. One last thing, and I shouldn't tell you guys this because we're going to have a competition. I know I've not sent out the lines to you yet, but we're going to have a competition. But I'm going to give you a little tip, okay? Western Kentucky, in their history, is 0-9 in bowl games. App State is 6-0. Take that for what you will. And the line's only 3. So, I mean, I'm not going to bet on an 0-9 team, a team that's never won a bowl game. I don't bet on I usually don't bet on streaks of 3 or 4 or more, and both of these have streaks going in their way, so I'm not going to bet it. I would definitely take App State there. That's my tip of the week, and not that I really care because bowl games until like December 30th kind of stink, and I'll probably, if I'm bored and I'm at home, I might put $20 on something just to keep me interested. Otherwise, who cares?
That's what they're there for, though. I mean, look, man, what else is getting ratings at 1:30 on a Tuesday afternoon in December? I'll turn it on if I'm at home.
I'll probably have better things to do. I'm just guessing. The kids are going to
probably bet on it and then like scream at the TV and like,
right.
Come on, Washington State, you're supposed to be better than this. Even though I've watched 1/4 of Washington State football all year long. But
my wife already thinks I'm an idiot, and she's like, "Who's playing? Why do you care?" And then she'll say,
changing that fact. My wife thinks I'm an idiot too. I mean, you're older than me. We've come to accept it, right?
Yeah, Devin, wait till you get married, buddy.
All right. I know Jerry and some of the others in the comments have been waiting for some Saints talk. Let's get to the Saints. Everybody said it during the week, and it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. They just went right out and ran the ball down the Jets' throat, played good defense. They didn't outthink anything. They did exactly what you're supposed to do against a bad team, and they just kind of bullied them around, right?
Yeah, and I know you're not going to give Taysom Hill any love or credit. I just know you're not. But anyone who – all the Taysom Hill haters out there need to go listen to Attitude and hear what I had to say this morning, because I thought that he played very well, and even with the messed up finger, I thought the game plan was outstanding. I thought Sean Payton kind of outfoxed the Jets, thinking that Alvin Kamara was going to be on a pitch count. That was hilarious. He even got the media buying in hook, line, and sinker. He brings Tony Jones out for the first play. Oh, they're going to run Tony Jones. Oh, no, we're not. And Kamara looked like Kamara. I mean, it was great. So it was enough to help Taysom Hill do some little things. So the game plan was Alvin Kamara and dink and dunk, kind of like the old days. And I thought he was great at that. And the Saints game plan, I thought, worked to perfection. It gets a little tougher next week, though.
Just a bit. We'll talk about that too. By the way, I have nothing against Taysom Hill. I think Taysom Hill's probably the better choice. What I never understood was everybody saying Trevor Siemian is the devil and he's the reason this team is losing game. What did he play? One game with Alvin Kamara? One? And they lost by 2 points?
4 games with Alvin Kamara, and they would have lost 4 games. But we're not going to go. Let's don't go down that road.
I think you were being too harsh on Siemian when this team's problems were. I mean, look. Yes, they won. Yes, Taysom played fine. Siemian played fine in some of those games. They got Teron Armstead back. They got Alvin Kamara back. They got Marcus Davenport back. They got Gardner Johnson back. It was not just Taysom.
He had Teron Armstead in the Tennessee game, and that didn't do him any good. He waited until like the middle of the third quarter to start playing football.
Well, we can get into that game. Sean Payton lost that game. The referees lost that game just as much as Trevor Siemian lost that game.
Yeah, he's got the same pace as I do after dinner when my wife tells me to pick up the dishes. That's how he is in a football game.
We're going to have a larger discussion about time possession and how meaningless it is, but we'll save that for another day. Devin, what did you make of the Saints on a Sunday? Really just kind of methodical but effective.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week, what they were going to do. I mean, they didn't need an elaborate game plan to beat the Jets. And, I think what they did was, shown that if they can run the ball effectively, they're an okay offense. They're not going to be explosive. They're not going to be overly, dynamic, but they can control the game with running the football and getting the ball in Alvin Kamara's hands. I think, without him, you saw Sean Payton scrambling for answers. I mean, trying different trick plays and all those things. You didn't need to do that with Alvin Kamara back in the lineup. And, couldn't come at a better time because they're going to need him down the stretch to have a chance to win these games. So I think, Marquez Callaway showed a little bit extra as well. I had a nice catch late in the fourth quarter. Traquan Smith has looked good as of late. So I think the Saints offense, they're going to be decent enough to win games. And it's just going to be about taking care of the ball. And I think Sunday was the first game Taysom Hill started without a turnover, fumble or interception. So that recipe is going to be able to keep them in games, but they're going to need definitely some turnovers from their defense going forward to continue to win games and be competitive.
You cannot stop the vaunted Nick Vannett, baby. I mean, they had no answer for Nick Vannett yesterday.
Little fantasy tight end option. I mean, listen.
Yeah, why not?
Spencer and I will talk about this on Fantasy Roundup tomorrow afternoon. With everything going on with COVID in the NFL, we talked about Ramsey and Higbee tonight, but there's been several others. Darrell Henderson, I think, is out with COVID tonight too, and you see the Bulls in the NBA have had to postpone 2 games. There's been European soccer games left and right getting postponed. Like Omicron is back. Omicron is the new COVID variant. And it seems like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not trying to get into it. It doesn't seem like it's as serious as Delta was, but it seems like it's more contagious. And so you're going to see this here for a few weeks where across sports, you're going to have more postponements. You're going to have more players suddenly become unavailable. That's something as a bettor and as a fantasy player, like you've really, really, really got to be tuned into the news. Because if you miss something, it could put you on the wrong side of a bet fast, or you could start somebody in fantasy you shouldn't be starting. And really, the winners of these fantasy football leagues is going to be whoever survives, whoever's players stay healthy. There's just going to be more of that luck element involved than in previous years, I think.
I think there's no doubt about that. And this Omicron is coming just in time for the NFL playoffs, right? I mean, it could certainly throw a monkey wrench into the plans of some teams, because I hate to say this, but I think if you get your team to the playoffs, you almost have to sequester them. You had to tell them, look, you're going to be away from your family for a month, like they did last year when everything first got started and they were able to get out on the field. And I know and the NBA did that and put them in a bubble. And I hate to say that, but if you want to win a championship, that's kind of how you have to approach it, because let's face it. I mean, if Green Bay ends up being the 1 seed and they lose Aaron Rodgers in the first week that they have to play, they're not going to beat whoever they play. I don't care who they play. I don't care if they play the Vikings or the Saints or Atlanta or whoever gets that 7 seed, or that's not who they'd play, because that team would probably be gone. But let's say they have to play the Rams. I mean, they're not going to beat the Rams without Aaron Rodgers in there. So, I mean, to me, that's kind of what you have to do. And I think you will see that, because we've already seen it. It started. It's kind of in the Midwest now, and my sister lives in Springfield, Mass, and it's kind of bad in the New England area. It's getting bad again. So it's just going to work its way across the country. It's really bad in Europe right now. You talked about it with soccer matches, and it's going to make its way over here. And we're 4 weeks away from the playoffs, and you know how long this takes. I mean, you're talking anywhere from 15 to 21 days, I think you can expect a resurgence. And we already knew it was going to get worse in the winter anyway. So I think the playoffs are going to be weird.
Now, the good news is, and we all want this stuff to go away. We all want it to be over. But the good news with Omicron, if you can call it any sort of good news, is that the spike seems to happen faster, which means that it should be done faster. If you just look at the charts of how the infections are spreading, it's spiked up a lot faster. And we're seeing that, and that's going to happen to us in the next couple of weeks, but then it's caving right back down again. So hopefully, maybe by the business end of the playoffs, we're kind of past it. There's no way to tell that with any sort of certainty, but that would be my hope. Anyway, let's look at next week's lines, and just keep that in mind. These lines could change drastically if you get COVID. Look at Higbee and Ramsey. This happened, 4 hours before the game started, about 3:00 this afternoon. That news broke, and that was, maybe it's 2:30, but these things could change. So you see that at the note. These are from Caesar Sportsbook as of 11 a.m. this morning. But by 11 a.m. Wednesday morning, they could be completely different. Now, having said that, the Packers are off. That's not a COVID thing. That's a Lamar Jackson don't know if he's going to play thing. And Aaron Rodgers also said after the game last night that he aggravated his toe injury and that he plans on playing through it. But could that make him he certainly didn't look less effective last night, but you just never know. So keep an eye on that if you want to bet Packers-Ravens. This is the start of Saturday NFL games. We've got a good one Saturday night, Patriots at Colts. The Thursday night game's a good one, Chiefs-Chargers, although I heard the Chargers left tackle is out with COVID. And so that's another issue. If you're the Chargers, you're going to have to score points to keep up with the Chiefs. You don't want your starting left tackle out, but right now it looks like he's going to be out. And then on Sunday night, you have the Saints and Bucks. Right now, Bucks are 11-point favorites. It was 11.5 when it opened yesterday. If it stays that high, guys, this will be the Saints, the most points they're getting in a game in the Sean Payton era. They've never given more than 10. The last time they gave more than 11 points was the last game before Sean Payton. It was New Year's Day 2006, and they lost to the Bucks in that game, 27-13. So it's been a long time.
Which had been the last time that they had lost 5 in a row as well. So they ended that season on a 5-game losing streak. So that's how, and they finished 3-13 that year. So we're comparing this team to a 3-13 Saints team. The Buccaneers minus 11. You know what? I'm going to have to really go through this, but I'm not sure that's enough. I don't want to. I know Saints fans don't want to hear this. And what are you talking about? We beat them 3 times in a row. It's a little different. I mean, they know that the Saints have beat them 3 times in a row. They can clinch the division by winning this game. I think they are ready to make a statement. The Saints will not be able to run the football on this team because no one runs the football against this team. This is a tough spot for the Saints. Finally breaking that losing streak, having to go back on the road, second straight week at your, at the nemesis for the moment. And if the weather is anything like it was yesterday, hot and steamy, you better be in really good shape for this one.
Another interesting one. Actually, Devin, I'll give you a chance to talk Saints Bucks. Tom Brady he's had trouble in prime time lately in his career. I mean, you can look up the numbers. He's still okay, just not quite Tom Brady level. Do you buy into any of that, or are you on the Bucks here as well?
I don't know if I'm going to pick the Bucks to cover necessarily. I think the Saints still have a very good chance of covering, but in terms of winning the game, I would expect the Bucks to win the game. I mean, the way that I wouldn't be at the same time. It's kind of hard for this season because we think we would know everything that's going to happen. The Saints shouldn't even won the first matchup if we're being honest, but they played about as perfect a game as they can. So this one's going to be a tough one. I just don't want to pick the Bucks to cover this game because I just feel like the Saints their defense finds ways to confuse Tom Brady. And I mean, I can't really explain it, but it's going to be a tough one. But I think I'm going to pick the Saints to cover, but I think the Bucks will still win the game.
Did you say Tom Brady doesn't play well in prime time?
There are numbers to back that up.
Isn't the Super Bowl played in prime time?
I believe that it is not considered prime time.
Really? Okay.
I think
it runs.
It does. I mean, look.
He's got like a few. I only have one ring on right now.
Although I mean, look, and I'm not a Brady hater. Like I'm not one of these people who tries to downgrade everything he does. But it's also true that he's won 7 Super Bowls. Half of them, I don't know that he won them as much as he didn't lose them and let the defense. The interception against the Seahawks, the very first one against the Rams. That Patriots team had a terrific defense. The second one against the Rams was like 13-3. It's not like he lit up the building in that one. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I thought I was in. I'm in the vast minority. I know when it comes to. I don't think Tom Brady's the GOAT. That's another debate for another day. But anyone who wants to downplay anything this guy has done, I don't know, man. That's a little. You win 7 Super Bowls, and you're the quarterback. I mean, we could go back and look at. I mean, was Terry Bradshaw a great quarterback? He won 4 Super Bowls. I don't know. I mean, he was a really good quarterback. But if you win 7 Super Bowls, it takes a little bit more than luck. That's all I'm going to say. And Tom Brady in prime time, I really need to see those numbers that back up that he's not very good or not great or whatever. However I'll let you restate it any way you want to state it, but I need to know how you're putting where you stand with Tom Brady in prime time.
Last year, okay, the Buccaneers beat the Giants on a Monday night.
I remember.
I'm sorry, that was this year. I'm thinking
they beat him last year. They beat him last year.
They did beat them last year, but when they beat them on Monday night this year, it was 30-10. The Bucs were -10. They covered.
Yeah.
That was the first time in 13 primetime games that a Tom Brady team had covered the spread.
That's only because the betting public, Drunk Joe and Aunt Mabel, love Tom Brady so much. You could put the line at whatever you want, and they're still going to bet him. The line is always super inflated. Just like,
okay, then what about
this
but
line,
you're saying this
line
not
in the grand scheme of I think this line's super inflated too. I don't think that you could make it enough to make me bet the Saints. That's not official because I got to go look through some things. I haven't done my handicap on it yet, but it's just a spot. But 8 times out of 10, Tampa, just like Kansas City last year, they finally started realizing that Kansas City is getting too much love, and people just start betting against Kansas City, and we're winning every week for like a bunch of weeks in a row. But it's kind of the same thing now with Tampa Bay. I mean, their line is just way too high. It was always too high when he was with New England too. It's been the same thing. I bet you his in his career. I might do this as a project in the summer. His career against the spread, I bet you he's sub 500 for sure because it's overinflated.
Yeah, you may be right. I mean, I would have to go back and look at that, but I do remember those against the spread, and then his passer rating. I didn't do the research. I admitted I was unprepared for this. His passer rating in primetime games, maybe I'll have it for Thursday, is also lower than it is normally. And again, you're typically playing better opponents in primetime, so that's part of it too. But there has been a lot of discussion about Brady in primetime, so we'll see what happens.
This is why you're not a lawyer, Zach. You throw stuff out without having looked it up.
The judge would be asking me to.
That's why we're both not lawyers. I do it. Right. I do it as well.
You see, I do have some numbers. I am prepared as far as this goes. Keith Kastner, we saw a comment on there. The Saints will win their last 4. Jerry Poor says he hopes the Saints sweep the Bucks. If the Saints go 4-0 the rest of the way, which again not likely, especially this weekend. But if you look at 538, they have a little model where you can say, okay, I picked this team to win this game and this team to win that game, and you can select as many as you want, and it gives you playoff odds. If the Saints go 4-0, regardless of other results, they're more than 99% to make the playoffs. They're basically in if they go 4-0.
Yeah, they're going in. Yeah.
Now, if they lose to the Bucks and win their last 3, they're 61%. Okay, so that would put them at 9-8. And they say they're 61%. However, if they go down to 2-2, any combination of 2 and 2, the best that I could get them to is 17%. The worst was like 3%, and that's if they lose to Carolina and Atlanta, who are teams that are they're going head to head against for the wild card. So this is a big game just from the perspective of if they can win this game, you are in really, really, really good shape. And maybe I'm stating the obvious, but you lose this game, all of a sudden, basically no margin for error. You got to win the last 3.
I know it's Devin's turn, but I just want to say one quick thing. Really, and I'm going to hand it over to Devin. If the Saints go 3-1, I don't believe that 61% at all. There are too many teams bunched up in that spot, and I need to go through the records. But I think it's I was talking about this morning with Garland Gillen. I think if they go in 3-1, it's got to be less than 50% that they make the playoffs. I mean, they don't win hardly any time unless they get head-to-head with Washington, or they get I don't know what it would be like with Atlanta if they beat them in the last game. But if they get head-to-head with one of these teams, maybe so. The conference record isn't any good. That Giants game we talked about that was going to bite them in the butt later, it's definitely going to bite them in the butt.
Oh, one more win anywhere, and they're in much, much, much better shape.
Sure. But I don't believe that 61%. But it doesn't matter to me, and we could talk. This is for later shows as well. I don't think they win their last 3 games. They're going to lose this week, and I don't see that. They're gonna lose to one of those 3 teams.
The early line on the Dolphins game is a pick.
They're going to lose. That's what I think.
If you look at power ratings, they'll be favored by 2-3 points against Carolina, but the game at Atlanta might also be close to a pick. I mean, you're talking about them almost winning 3 coin flips. So that's flip a coin 3 times, try to get ahead 3 times in a row. It's not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. Now, I will say, just to clarify, the 61% is 3-1 if the loss is to the Bucks, because that means that you're beating Carolina and Atlanta. If you beat the Bucks but lose another one of those games, it goes down to like 47% or so. Because the games against Atlanta and Carolina are key, especially Atlanta right now, because those are one of the teams that they're tied with. and they also would be helping their division record, obviously, which right now I think is 2-2. No, they're 1-2 in the division, I guess, right now.
Right.
So if you could win those 2 games to get to 3-3 in the division, you would be helping yourself out. The other thing that helps them a little bit, Washington and Philadelphia play twice still, including this week, and so the one of those teams is either going to drop off or they're both going to get another loss, and so
You root for the Reds
a little bit.
You root for the football team, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think you root for the football team because the Saints have the head-to-head,
Right.
And then also the Eagles' other game is against the Giants, outside of their 2 against Washington. Well, Washington plays Dallas, and so I think the football team being in that spot is better for the Saints. So anyway,
also good news for the Saints is the Vikings still have to play the Rams and the Packers.
Yeah, and those teams have stuff to play for. So, Devin, I'm just going to give you the floor because I feel like Jim and I have been talking for 10 minutes. So talk about whatever, if you want to talk about like your favorite dish to make on Super Bowl Sunday, that's fine, but it can be football, whatever you want.
No, I was just listening kind of to the scenarios. To me, if they lose this game, I just don't think they're getting the playoffs. I mean, I just think they have to have everything go their way, and already this season, things have not gone their way. And just the way it's already playing out, like they might miss the playoffs by, a win from somebody else. And anybody can lose at this point. So if you're counting on other teams to win, you probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs in the first place. So, and I can also see a scenario where they beat the Bucs and then they lose to either Carolina or Atlanta. To me, the last 4 games, it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to win the last 4 games, just straight up, obviously. But even if they beat the Bucs on Sunday, I mean, the turnaround to Miami, who's still playing for their playoff lives. Carolina might throw Sam Darnold back in there. I mean, there's so many things that
Please do.
There's so
Carolina's
many
a mess, man. They're a mess.
Yeah, there's so many things that have to go right for the Saints to make the playoffs. So they literally have to play their best football, play mistake-free football. But even then, it's still going to be uphill climb for them.
No, I mean, and just to stick with, and again, I'm using New York Times has one too. ESPN has one. I'm using 538. Right now, the Saints are 20% to make it, so they do not have a good chance. Now, if they beat Tampa Bay, that goes up to 49%. If they lose, that goes down to 14%. That again, that's regardless of other results. So this is obviously a huge swing game, but they're also 11-point underdogs in it.
I think that wouldn't it be fun though? And I know I'm pumping up the attitude, but we talked about it this morning, and wouldn't it be a perfect scenario? The Saints go get to 8-8, they lose to Tampa, win the next 2, and then have it come down to the Saints against Atlanta with the winner getting in the playoffs. I mean, wouldn't that be great? I could tell you right now, if that is the case, I am certainly picking the Saints even on the road in that one, because Sean Payton will outcoach anybody except maybe Bill Parcells when it comes down to a winner-take-all game for something like that. If he finds a way to get this team in the playoffs, I'm not kidding. If he finds a way to get this team in the playoffs, they go 9-8, and he finds a way to get this team in the playoffs, he seriously should be considered for Coach of the Year.
He probably won't be, but I agree.
Right.
At 9-8, he probably won't be, but I think he should be. When they were 5-2, I thought he was the midseason Coach of the Year. Now, obviously, a 5-game losing streak changes a lot of things. But listen, the most likely scenario is the Saints end up missing the playoffs by the margin of letting Cordero Patterson open down the sideline, by the margin of a false start penalty on a 2-point conversion in Tennessee that pushed you back to the 7. By the margin of Saquon Barkley going off in overtime, losing a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Giants. Pick your close
Carolina
loss.
COVID.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that one, and injuries and stuff like that. But pick these individual moments. They came all the way back to terrific comeback to apparently beat Atlanta, and then let
one side block call.
Yeah,
when it's 13-10.
Well, yeah, I mean
it was 13-10.
There's a long way to go in that one. You could also look at the roughing the passer call in the Tennessee game that led to a Tennessee touchdown.
Yeah. For
You know,
sure.
I mean, that's another
The
Definitely.
list is pretty long.
It really is.
There's
You're right.
one play here, one play there, one play. And yeah, they've had some of those plays go their way, the pick six against Brady being one of them, obviously. But like, there's just been more losses where you're like, man, if you change one play, they win that game. One play. That's all it takes. How about Jameis Winston? Get Devin White tackling him from behind and he tears his ACL. Would he have gotten hurt some other time? I don't know.
He
Maybe.
just slides.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
maybe.
just gets tackled.
Where is this team if Jameis Winston never gets hurt? I mean, they're probably.
I think they beat Atlanta. They beat Tennessee.
I think they got 8 wins, right? You think you got to give them at least 8 wins?
That's fair.
I mean, and then they're certainly.
I don't know that they beat Philadelphia. They didn't play very well that day, period, and they had offensive line problems, and they wouldn't have beat Buffalo anyway.
The Saints defense doesn't match up well with Jalen Hurts for some unknown reason, but
maybe they beat Dallas. I
mean, it'd be a different team. I think this weekend. Put it this way: this game would mean a whole lot more if Jameis Winston had never got hurt.
Yeah, they'd still be in the division race for sure.
Yeah.
All right, before we go, let's do Monday Night Football picks. Devin, we'll start with you. Rams and Cardinals tonight. Final score.
I'm picking the Cardinals to win 27-23. I think the loss of Jalen Ramsey is going to be crucial. I know that Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are both nursing injuries, but the Rams defense couldn't stop the Cardinals passing attack in the first go round. So without their top corner, I'm worried that they're going to be able to stop them this time too.
Jim, how about you?
I say Rams 23, Cardinals 20. I think it's going to be a really tight, low-scoring game, and it's going to have to be Rams defense that steps up. And again, Jalen Ramsey going hurts, but I think the rest of the defense is going to step up. I think Von Miller is probably finally feeling comfortable with the Rams. And again, this is a statement game. They've got to win this game to have any chance to win the division, or else the Cardinals are going to cakewalk to winning the division. And really, obviously, this gives them the upper hand in winning the number one seed if they can win this one. So it's a huge game. You don't get a lot of big games on Monday night, maybe 1 or 2 a year these days. But I like the Rams. I still think that they're going to find a way to win and leave some drama in the NFC West the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I'll take the Rams. I'll go a little higher scoring, 28-27. I'll take the Rams to win. The Saints have 2 straight primetime games, I just realized, Sunday night and Monday night. So they'll be in the spotlight.
Is it true that they can flex Monday night games? I've heard somebody told me that.
Not a Monday night. You can flex a Sunday night, but it's too late for that. But you can't flex a Monday night.
I know, but somebody told me that they just started that this year, and I had never heard it, and I never went and looked it up. So again, me being a lawyer, but someone told me.
It wouldn't make a lot of sense to make a team play on a different day on short notice. I don't think you can. But anyway, listen, the Saints Dolphins it's not the sexiest game in the world. It could very easily end up being an elimination game. Whoever loses that game is basically done. So
it could be
from
a
that
6-3 game. It could be a 6-3 game. I'm not kidding.
By the way, the Dolphins have serious COVID issues right now too. Well, probably not by the time they play the Saints, but they got 3 running backs in the COVID room. So anyway, we will say goodbye, and we'll see you guys tomorrow 3:30 p.m. for the Fantasy Roundup. Thursday at 4 p.m. for At the Book. For Devin Jackson and Jim Derry, this has been Odds and Ends on Bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Have a good one, everybody.